The reason we didn't make the last World Cup is because we didn't have our generation participating. I don't really recall that many people getting into that team of the people who were born, let's say 88 to 92, 93. There's no stud on this national team. I do think that there was a lost generation, and it's clearly evident on our national team because everybody's basically younger than like 25, 24.
It could have been us.
Yeah.
Could have been us, boy.
But, this generation will have the opportunity to be 28, 29, 30 in their prime playing at future World Cups and leaving their stamp on the World Cups.
What's up, y'all? We are here with a special vignette with one of our special guests. Our boy Emmo is here. He and I have talked a lot off tape about a subject that I'm pretty passionate about and is really interesting hearing it from his point of view. So first, before we even get into it, I kind of want to just go through your experiences. Again, you as a player, you are graduating class of 07.
09. 2013 college.
I keep saying 07. 2013. 2013 college.
Indeed.
Ended up leaving, going to Villanova for school.
Villanova University. Finance
University.
Degree. Yeah, indeed.
Played D1 ball.
Indeed.
Took that degree, took all of that and said, I'm going to put everything that I studied to the side and furthered pushing into your career, into your soccer career.
Totally.
Went to Poland first.
Yes, Poland in 2013, probably like 6 weeks roughly, maybe a little bit longer. Maybe it was 2 months roughly.
Okay.
Yeah.
How was that experience?
On the field or off the field?
Exactly. I mean, both to a certain extent. I mean, I think people should know, we always hear about these cool stories of Weston McKennie and his trajectory to Juve and whatnot. But there's a lot of ballers out here, absolute ballers. By the way, this guy is certified absolute baller, to where you end up kind of going to these maybe lesser known leagues, and we've seen players in bigger leagues, and for some reason there's something that's just not working, and it's and a lot of times it's an outside factor. So for you, I mean, what was it on the field? What was it off the field?
Yeah, I'll probably start off the field. Going to Poland was definitely an eye-opening experience for me. Being a black man in America is obviously, a shared experience. Obviously, we're not a monolith. Of course, we have our own unique experiences, but in the world of racism, we could all very much relate, if you will.
Absolutely.
Being in Poland, I was in a town called Bielsko-Biała in southern Poland. It was somewhat of a small town, but some of the people were kind of nice, but for the most part they had not seen black people, I would say, in their lives. It was to the point I remember getting laughed at, pointed at on the street, taken pictures of by a lot of the Polish men, or maybe not, maybe they weren't Polish, by a lot of the men that were
white
in
guys there.
that were in that city at
this
that
is 2015
time.
By the way, right?
This is 2013.
This is 2013.
Yeah, this is around July, August 2013. I remember actually, after one of our games, the team that I was with, it was essentially like a guy who I had known in town in the North Jersey area. He actually ran this club called Icon FC. It was kind of one of the best semi-pro teams in the country. Went far in the Open Cup, etc. He essentially put a bunch of guys together since he has a Polish background, and brought us all to Poland to play in various different preseason fixtures in hopes to kind of get signed and find other various different opportunities. It wasn't what he sold. Unfortunately, wasn't actually what really happened. But for those who have traversed the game of football in the pro sphere, this pretty good and well, that you're promised a house, but you get a New York City apartment. like I said, I remember leaving one of the games, with my team. There's probably like maybe 5 or 6, black people, American black people that were there on the team. We stopped at, no different than if you were on like the Turnpike in Jersey and you're stopping at a rest stop on the highway on like I-95 type thing. And we stopped at this like restaurant to get, some of the players get like a feast, kind of like, meat, kind of like, steak, chicken, all that other stuff, potatoes. But ironically, all of the black players just ordered like regular pizza because we were just like starving. Little did we find out, everyone else's food came out first, and they made us like all of the black players who ordered pizza, which is like the simplest thing on the menu. You would imagine pizza is going to take a lot less than a whole feast of chicken and potatoes, steak and all of that stuff. Yeah. Our food came out last there. It was definitely an eye-opening experience. Even when I was going to Warsaw, I got denied service in Warsaw. Literally just trying to buy Coca-Cola at a market probably 2 blocks away from my hotel. So yeah, it was an eye-opening experience going to Poland. Nothing against the country whatsoever.
Was there anything to argue with, or was it just no?
I literally just
clearly
went.
How it is.
I mean, I can't speak Polish.
Yeah.
I had walked in to, I don't know, one of like those like outdoor market kind of things that I guess is like enclosed, kind of similar to like a fair or whatever, if you will.
Farmer's market kind of.
Yeah, farmer's market kind of thing. Yeah. And I was literally like, pointing at the refrigerator, saying like, can I have like a Coca-Cola, like one Coca. And she looked at me, she was like, no, you leave, is what she told me. I was like, you know what? At that point, I went back to my hotel room. I was like, yo, I'm out. Like, I'm out like in a couple days.
This country.
Yeah, like F this. And, like, again, right? Like, I feel like, black people tend to be very forgiving, right? Even in this sense of me having this one specific experience, I'm talking about Poland in a pretty positive way. You know what I mean? I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt.
But that's one experience too many for you to give them any kind of credit.
Right. But then again, you look at, the history of the country, obviously, war that's happened there, absolutely. Where they're just, located on a map, relative to, where black people tend to live throughout Europe. Yeah. All that being said, I think it was, an unfortunate experience to have. I don't think I would go back to that country, to be quite honest. But yeah, I mean, that was my respective experience there off the field. On the field, we played some, honestly, like quality opposition. I believe we won like 2 of the 4 or 5 games that we played roughly, which I mean is pretty good. Is this
like a kind of a trial period, or this is like the game? This is like you're on the team now, you're playing for this squad.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, at this point, it was every game was a trial for another team in a sense, right? And I think some guys, maybe like 2 guys ended up getting like picked up, but they got picked up for like, a couple months and then dropped. And that's kind of how it works in, that part of the world. Unfortunately, sometimes players don't get paid. If you're, a big talent and you go there and play, maybe they only like you for 3 months. Maybe it's 6 months. Maybe it's a year. So all of it, it honestly varies as you go to those respective countries. You're, kind of playing roulette.
These boys are handing out little IOU contracts and pink slip contracts.
Oh yeah. I mean that happens in the USL. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll get there in a moment. But I was playing in the USL as well, and but yeah, I mean, contracts were between $1,000 or $1,200 a month in a 6-month season. Yikes. They give you free housing, but it's a 6-month season. You're making a G a month. We're talking about $6,000 a year, maybe $8,000 a year, even if you have housing. So. Like I said, my experience on the field was a pretty good experience. I mean, the teams that we played in Poland were, honestly, some of them were some quality opposition. I'd probably say I probably had like 1 or 2 games where I didn't do as well as I think I could have done.
I mean, but was the level head over heels?
No, I mean,
any level you've the college D1 level even?
Yeah, I mean, it was better than the college D1 level. I mean, you could tell that we were playing against pro opposition, and again, like the team I was playing with was just a bunch of guys who are quality players in the New Jersey, New York area. I think there may be some other players located throughout the tri-state, etc. Yeah. But it was definitely a great experience. It was right after I graduated from college, and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I know I didn't want to get directly within the workforce. I wanted to kind of figure it out after that. But then you end up after these respective windows of the summer window or the winter window, if you miss a window, you end up having to kind of like wait to the next window, and you have to wait and then wait and wait. I think for the USL it may be a little bit different. Sometimes you could kind of join in, but it was definitely an eye-opening experience. But that was my first experience for sure.
That's tough. Yeah. So you do that, and then fast forward, you write an op-ed basically in Reddit forum talking about what you describe as the hidden or the forgotten generation of U.S. football.
Right.
And from that, you kind of talk about the Landon Donovan, Clint Dempsey generation that experienced the growth in the game and how they got to the national team in a very different way than what we're seeing with the young generation of Weston McKennie and Tyler Adams and whatnot. But there was some kind of gap right in between there where you cite Jurgen Klinsmann with bringing in a completely different mindset to the U.S. team. And somehow people like us, somewhere, graduating high school from, let's say 05 to 2010, where we didn't really fit into those. We didn't fit in through the college feeder system anymore because Jurgen Klinsmann was changing. What exactly did you notice about that makes you feel like we don't,
we missed a step in a sense.
Yeah, we missed a step. I mean, we didn't see us, right? We didn't see us and I'm not talking about just us. I'm talking about any of us who graduated during that time. We didn't see us on the field.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like when I explain this subject, some people, take it with a grain of salt just because I was a part of that generation.
For sure.
As great
take it how you will.
Well, agreed. And, as great of a player as I think I was, I mean, there were obviously players that I know that were better than me that still didn't get the opportunity. Right. So I should preface, what I'm about to say at least with that. Honestly, like my whole, review of analyzing the U.S. national team from at least I've been conscious until now. I do remember the years of obviously like the Kobe Jones. You remember the guy that we see on Fox? I forget, Alexi Lalas, his shaggy hair and whatnot.
The early
90s World Cups in the U.S. and whatnot. So we're just kind of starting out, not necessarily starting out the sport here, but like starting out the fandom of the sport.
Right.
So they're kind of like the first generation of American players to bring the game, kind of similar to like the Mia Hamms of the world.
For sure.
Brandi Chastain's, etc. And then, post that era, you kind of have, I'm trying to remember some of these guys, like Eddie Pope. You have Brian McBride.
Bocanegra.
Bocanegra. I mean, Bocanegra's probably a part of that generation as well. The Eddie Pope years. I think Eddie Pope probably retired before.
You're right.
Brian McBride.
A little bit later. Definitely Brian McBride.
Yeah, Brian McBride.
Clint Mathis.
Clint Mathis. Brad Friedel. That was kind of like the earlier. That was like the second generation after that first generation that still had a lot of the same attitude. A lot of those guys, obviously I wasn't playing during that time, so I can't, count all of the people that, were playing during that time that should have gotten opportunity.
Yeah.
All I know is that, we had a pretty good, strong foothold, at least in U.S. soccer. We weren't worldwide known, but, there was a system that was being created.
Right.
Essentially, you had, club teams. I think this is the start of U.S. youth soccer, probably the start during of ODP and all this stuff.
Probably the next generation of MLS too, or the first generation, the first form.
Post
that was 96 MLS.
Right. So this is kind of post those PK shootouts at the MLS used to have,
exactly.
right? The one-on-ones from the half field.
Those were lit, by the way. We want to see. I want to see some of those.
To be fair, if they brought that in this World Cup, a lot more Americans would probably watch.
That's facts.
You have that generation built upon the same prior generation in terms of attitude, demeanor, how they play for the shirt, if you will.
Play hard, play for the crest.
Yeah, play for the crest.
Don't necessarily play
the cleanest soccer.
Clean ball,
Yeah, but this is as we're growing up, and then as that generation is kind of ending. This is like with Claudio Reyna. I think I remember watching him, and maybe it was like the 02 World Cup. If I remember watching him.
Yeah.
And I remember I think they ended up like losing. I don't know if it was like to South Korea or they lost to someone or whatever. But majority of the players on that team kind of played together from their earlier years, be it in their early 20s or late teens, up until their latter part of their career, late 20s, early 30s. But they had a pretty good nucleus of players that had come in during that same generation. And then if you fast forward again to the next generation of Donovan was probably on the cusp of the prior generation and this generation, but then you have Clint Dempsey, you have Gucci Onyewu, you have Tim Howard. So then that ends up ushering like kind of like the generation for which when we were in high school, that like 08 generation.
That was what we were watching.
We were watching
to be a part of that.
Exactly. Exactly. Those guys ended up having, in my opinion, a very strong foothold on the national team. They were quality players. A lot of them ended up playing in Europe. I know Dempsey was in Europe.
Definitely Dempsey,
bunch of guys.
Tim, obviously, all the guys you named.
I mean, Tim was on Man U, right?
Yeah, Tim was on Man U. Right. Even Tim is a Everton legend. Like, we know Tim was that guy. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So now, as you're, getting into this, prior generation that just missed the World Cup, those guys were honestly, I don't really recall that many people getting into that team in our generation of the people who were born, let's say 88 to 92, 93. I have, stories for days about, some of the people that, were on that national team that were playing, but I won't go there. But that said, I do think that the reason we didn't make the last World Cup is because we didn't have our generation participating in any of those games, as well as leading up to that team, playing in those respective fixtures. Yeah. I think, I remember Breck Shea. I remember Greg Garza, one of my good friends at the time, Brandon Lee. But I remember, a bunch of these guys were playing for the U.S. national team. I remember watching them at Nike friendlies. I remember going down to Bradenton, watching a lot of these teams play, and a lot of these guys play. But none of these guys really broke into the national team squad.
Nope,
which
you're right. None of them had a foothold.
None of them had a foothold, and I honestly think the U.S. Soccer Federation doesn't really look themselves in the face all that often.
No,
I mean, even especially the individual states themselves. Again, I grew up through the New Jersey ODP system, youth soccer, played for PDA, played for Red Bulls, played for Match Fit.
Right, as they would say in the U.S. Federation,
exactly,
in the U.S. system,
exactly. But truthfully, did they even really look at the players that they were choosing? And again, I'm not saying that the players were bad, but did they look at the players that they were choosing and actually looking at their trajectory, looking at their
zero
career?
development sense?
There was no development sense, right? Yeah. And this kind of goes into the whole college soccer sphere of things, of just the lack of development at that age.
Yep.
I mean, it's probably honestly a conversation for another day, but looking respectively at the team itself, there was, I think Breck Shea got a couple opportunities. Greg Garza got a couple opportunities. DeAndre Yedlin was scouted from college. I know he played at Crossfire, I believe, in Washington.
Who was a little younger than us.
Yeah, he was a little bit younger than us.
Younger than us, yes.
I think I named a couple other people. I think Sebastian Lletget. I think he was Gatorade Player of the Year. Yeah. But outside of that, there's no stud on this national team. And even if you look at the World Cup as it exists today with the U.S. national team, yes, the team is predominantly young. That's a great thing. But the team, imagine if we had a 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32-year-old player who, let's say, has been playing in Europe for the last 8 to 10 years, starting and playing on our national team, commanding our team through. Yeah. We would have been a completely different team, you know? Sure. So anyway, that kind of goes into my argument. I do think that there was a lost generation of, folks born between 88 to 93, 94. And it's clearly evident on our national team because everybody's basically younger than 25, 24. Yeah. And they scrapped the whole old team. Yeah. And it was a major mistake that I think the Federation probably doesn't even look into. They probably don't even care.
No, they don't.
This is U.S. Soccer, if we're being
U.S.
frank.
Soccer, and again, from a bias standpoint as well, being in the U.S. system growing up and seeing players who kind of had those same coaches who were always a part of the U.S. Soccer Federation systems for as long as they knew, and they were with these teams for 13 years, 14 years. Those were the players who would make it in the in those national pools, right? And so even if you'd get invited as a regular player who played on kind of a 1A team in Atlanta, which I did, you get to these camps and you're like, oh man, and there's zero thought of development. It's just kind of like, where was that? Where's so-and-so's son? Yeah, there he is.
Listen, there were people who got picked at regional camp when I was there that weren't even at camp.
That weren't at camp.
Didn't make camp. Weren't at camp.
Right. And we just knew they had to be good.
That weren't at camp, So it's just, listen, I mean, I remember my brother playing ODP or trying out for ODP during his earlier years. He's 4 years older than me.
Okay.
I remember him trying out for ODP, and he didn't get chosen at ODP, and one of the evaluators actually was a guy from England that came in and moved to Montclair, New Jersey, started up a little kind of soccer club in New Jersey. My dad ended up getting him to come to our local town to do all of the training. He ended up coming up to my dad. This is probably 8 years after my brother had tried out, 10 years after my brother had tried out, telling him that, the evaluators, the people, the the people who were running ODP, NJODP at the time, specifically said that they wanted to choose one other specific player who they knew, and they knew their parents, and that's why my brother didn't get picked. So like, this is no different than everyday life, right? It's probably no different than jobs, getting opportunities. Yeah. But this is the U.S. soccer system as it exists today, or as it existed yesteryear. Hopefully,
as it exists today too. It hasn't changed much.
I'm not in it. I'm in the private training game to isolate myself from the politics and stuff. But it was honestly a travesty. Yeah. To be honest, there was so much talent in that 88 to honestly 93 class. I mean, I know people in 88 and 89 that were filthy, phenomenal players. Yeah. Still couldn't make it. Yeah. And
it's for their opportunities.
Yeah, working for their opportunities. And, as you get various different opportunities abroad, like I said, sometimes you're promised, the entire house, but you get a New York City apartment. And it's just kind of like the grind of the game. It's the biggest sport in the world. People think, since our men's national team isn't, as high quality as some of the other national teams, that, we can't compete and stuff. But listen, we have the players.
And we've had the players too. Right. That's kind of what I'm trying to impress upon people. This is not a new thing. What's new is now players are going out to better systems, right? Instead of being developed here in the U.S., where there's these very distinct moments of favoritism. And let me be clear on this. There's favoritism all over the world. A lot of life is luck. And luck being when opportunity meets that preparation, right? But it's a different system when you're growing up and you have to pay $1,500 to $2,500 a season to have your kid be in these programs where there's that coach who seems to be connected to that other U.S. Soccer Federation coach, so that when they're at these training camps when you're 13, 14, and you're in those major development years, they're going, oh, I know that kid, we got to put him on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Instead, it's the kids who were paying, the kids whose parents kind of had the in. And that's so much different than in Europe, where now you're starting to see these academy teams that we're building in the U.S. try to feed these kids out early because, again, U.S. has zero money around development. And
but it's also working now. I feel like it's...
You can't say they don't have money for development because, they have sponsors.
Totally.
Like Volkswagen. Just look at the whole Nike. Volkswagen campaign. That they did, you know what I mean? You can't say that.
But that money goes to the U.S. Soccer Federation. But that money is not going. I mean, that money is going to camps.
The women deserve that bread, though.
No, I mean,
the women are getting that bread.
Yeah,
now just as deep as the U.S. men's team went in the World Cup, the women get to share that bag with them, that's nice.
Especially
when I'm talking about the youth development.
Well, I think specifically, the U.S. not making the last World Cup was the best thing for the soccer, for the players,
right?
For this current generation of the players who are between 18 to 25, let's say, or 17 to 25. Yeah, it was the best thing for them because they scrapped the whole team.
They had to scrap.
They scrapped everybody.
Whole project.
And I'm sure they picked a couple, people, whether it's goalies and stuff like that who have appeared before in the past and stuff. I think maybe the goalie for NYCFC. He might have been picked before. The black guy.
He's been there. Sean Johnson.
Yeah, Sean Johnson.
Who also is from Atlanta. I grew up playing with him.
Yeah.
But to your point, he should have been he should have been with this, and he wasn't. He wasn't with this team back with even the mixed Discarud and whatnot. He finally kind of found his way into this new formation of the team, which is nuts to me because he's been around. He's 88. He's class 88 or 89 probably.
Yeah, and I do also think one piece that we didn't touch upon that you kind of alluded to just a moment ago was with mixed Discarud. Yeah. He was also a part of that transitional generation that, yes, didn't make the World Cup, but just before, Jurgen Klinsmann came in and got the reins, and he was obviously bringing in a lot more foreign-born American players to the national team that I'm not trying to have the argument of
foreign versus American.
Well, I was
born.
Well, I was gonna make a kind of a analogy to how a lot. I don't know if it's black actors in black American actors maybe complain about black European actors or UK artists.
Totally,
getting the shine,
coming in and taking these roles.
Yeah,
right? Totally.
I'm honestly not even trying to make that comparison, but I do think that that also did have somewhat of an effect on our generation.
That's a huge huge effect.
Jurgen, I think he is American. I think he does have American citizenship
now he does,
as well.
Yeah, I think probably U.S. Soccer Federation fast-tracked it.
Yeah, probably fast-tracked it for him.
Yeah.
But I don't think he probably wasn't really much involved in the current system as it was at that time to be able to know which players exist, where they are, who they are. So he just came in and brought in his guys that he knew were German-born, and he's like, you know what, this will clearly make the team that much better.
Yeah.
But again, right, it kind of feeds into the narrative of, I think, that respective generation being completely lost.
Exactly. And even those players got lost. Like there's the, I forget his last name, Julian
Green
played for Bayern.
Yeah.
And
well, I don't even know what happened to him.
Because we just scrapped that whole, like they were like, all right, Jurgen's out. Now we have this new thing. So what again, just from your outside purview and as soccer fans in general, like what needs to happen to kind of change this. And again, this only happened in a vacuum between those years that you kind of stated, right? Where there was just like a changeover in mentality from a U.S. standpoint. And that mentality hasn't completely changed, right? Like it's still kind of a develop less, pay more for, European players model where you bring people over here in the MLS. But there are a little bit more opportunities for camps and development. But again, the way to get on the U.S. national team now, it just seems like you got to get scouted by somebody in Europe so that you can get into a real European development program and then come back to the U.S., right?
Yeah, it's tough to say.
How do we grow from here,
How do we grow from here? Maybe, I could even just talk about like where we were in terms of how we were scouting talent. Totally. I think a lot of the times it was just either maybe you were a youth national team player and maybe got through or broke through, or maybe you were a foreign born player, maybe you were a pro from young. But a lot of the times, a lot of these guys end up getting scouted out of college. And when I mean scouted, it's really just like you made it to like the NCAA tournament and they saw
and you were on an all-league team or
you scored a bunch of goals in a quality league or in any league, to be honest. As long as you score a bunch of goals, more than likely than not, you're going to get drafted in any league, or you could have gone to a junior college, etc. But yeah, I think that's kind of where we were. Now we're in the sphere of like, there's many more MLS teams. There's significantly more USL teams now, which is so much greater.
USL is really killing it.
You have the path to pro of all of that stuff that exists within like the MLS Next system. You have all these academies. Like when we were playing, I remember when academies got started in probably 2008, I believe, if I remember correctly.
2010.
In 2008, there was only academies for two age groups. Is when they first started off. I think it was
18 and 20 something.
No, I think it was U17, U18. It was probably like U18 and U16, I think it was, or U15.
Yeah, and
there was only academies for those age groups, So it's a completely different sphere that we're working with now. But you do still have the issue of pay to play that exists.
For sure,
obviously. How
do you even get into these academy teams if you're not getting in early and playing early?
Right. And I'm pretty sure some of these clubs now have like contracts that they make players sign. Like you have to show up to practice 3 days a week.
Definitely.
And I'm not saying you should definitely be practicing like a significant amount, like probably 5 days a week for the audience. But
you need to be on the field, guys.
Definitely need to be on the pitch and practicing, doing something. But I'm pretty sure they have like kids sign contracts to like show up and
totally the
commitment level. So
we talked to two LAFC academy players, and they have a regimen.
Regimen.
They're doing media training even.
Oh yeah.
So
it's awesome.
It is awesome. It's awesome to see. It's and kind of again from your point of view as well. It's just kind of like gut wrenching a little bit because it's like, man, like,
of course,
what? Yeah,
of course.
Like, I should have had this, and I want to help fuel more of this, but like. It's frustrating.
It's super frustrating because people that you played with, or you've seen have incredible games. Like a lot of our games and stuff weren't even on film,
right?
Bro. Like incredible goals, incredible games, one-off performances, whatever they may be. Now the system is obviously so much. It's so different than it used to be, which is honestly a great thing.
Yeah, it is great.
But we should also, be introspective and also like look back and see what we did wrong and hold ourselves accountable, which I don't think the U.S. Federation does at all.
Refuses.
And, coaches should do that as well. If you're a coach, if you're a trainer, evaluate your players, evaluate the trajectory of how your players are playing, where they're going. Yes, they may not stay with you at that one club forever. They may go from club to club. Who knows? But actually really evaluate the trajectory of your players. Look at your player pool. Look at how many people are coming through your system, where they're going, where they're ending up. Yeah. Look at the people that you overlooked, perhaps. I mean, all of that stuff was on sheets of paper back in the day. All that stuff now is digital.
It's all on.
The data's there.
You can find it easily now.
Data's there.
You should be able to find it.
You should be able to.
And U.S. has the resources to find it.
Definitely. Absolutely. So,
based on what you've seen with the U.S. in this World Cup, what is are you hopeful for what we have going into 2026 and kind of the systems we've implemented to this point, or at least the players taking advantage of the systems maybe that we haven't implemented, but overseas maybe have?
Yeah, I think the U.S. is in a very good spot. I'm happy to see how they played in this World Cup, considering we didn't make the last one. Totally. I do still think that the mentality does need to change of the team in terms of, if you guys actually really want to go and win a World Cup, I feel like we were just a little comfortable with our performance. Yeah, is all that I'm saying.
A little too comfortable.
A little too comfortable. We made it here. We did well. We made it to this round. Yeah, we made it to the round of 16. We did well. That said, I thought the team has played probably the best I've ever seen them play with the ball at their feet, especially in the back line.
Yes.
It was night and day from 8 years ago, 12 years ago in terms of how we used to play. It is also good to see that the team is very young. I'm also very happy to see 3 black center mids, and I'm
three black center mids bossing the thing,
bossing it. 3 black center mids is something that it sounds crazy, but it is very much a rarity in the game.
And that's not just in America either. Legit.
Yeah, a coach, empowering and giving 3 black players the ability to command the center of the field, aka be the point guard of your entire team and the shooting guard at times. That is something that has never been seen. So I'm super happy to see that. I was also pretty happy to see the kind of the trajectory of the goalie too. It's always good to kind of have those stories of those players that were overlooked then get an opportunity. We do definitely need more striking options.
We got to focus on goal scoring now. We've got soccer down. We figured out how to play soccer, US. Right. I'm happy for it.
Yeah, and I think we're going to be so much better the next World Cup. 4 years of more experience for these players, barring they stay healthy and sprinkling in some more talent.
Yeah, hopefully an influx of new talent.
Yeah, I mean you'll get what a lot of other countries get with subsequent generations, right? We just missed a generation. We skipped one, unfortunately. So we're gonna.
It could have been us.
Yeah.
Could have been us, boys.
But, this generation will have the opportunity to be 28, 29, 30 in their prime playing at future World Cups and leaving their stamp on the World Cup. So I think it's honestly only a matter of time. I'm not involved in the club game all that much to be able to tell you everything that's happening on the club side of things. Yeah. But it does seem like the players are definitely getting better. There's various different aspects of the game
that bell curve, it's just flattening a little bit more. Yeah. And you're just seeing it in the World Cup just with, African teams, right. With Morocco, with whomever, the development around this game. I mean, the money in this game is astronomical.
Oh my God!
And I'm still waiting for U.S. to start really trying to develop a homegrown system. It is great that we are now providing the opportunities for our players to be seen by these huge clubs,
right.
Which I want that to continue, and that will continue into 2026. But I'm looking for that one next step, which is just advancing the culture of American soccer and seeing how we can develop our players at home. Yeah. And people are doing it all around in dispersed ways. Eddie Johnson, and we talked to Black Star Soccer. We've seen Allianz de Football, all these things.
That's a doc, though.
Say it again.
That's a doc.
We got a doc coming out?
That's a doc we can do.
That's a doc we can do. See, he's already thinking about the media influencing the culture. That's what we're trying to do. We're just trying to grow the culture out here.
And I think it'll grow too. I mean, with the World Cup being in North America,
North American,
that's going to be
all of us.
It's going to be great for the sport. It's going to be great for the country. It's going to be great for the kids.
Let it be known that the 1994 World Cup in Los Angeles, in the America, I guess, was the highest grossing World Cup of all time, still to this day.
Yeah.
Bar Russia, bar Who else we just saw right now? Qatar, who spent the most.
Yeah,
who else? Brazil.
Right.
It was United States in 2024. I mean 1994. So look out, 2026.
Yes, indeed.
It's about to be e-commerce, economy boom. Like, it's time.
I'm gonna try to have a little rental property in a couple of these cities. You feel me?
I feel that. I thought you were about to say I'm gonna try to have a little a son running around trying to play.
No, not yet. Not old enough yet. Not old enough yet. But
he won't make 2026 anyway.
Lord willing, right?
Lord willing, soon. Right. Well, Emmo, I appreciate you coming on, breaking it down for us. Indeed. We got more of these coming. Again, make sure you subscribe if you haven't. Eat, Pray, Ball on YouTube. Eat, Pray, Ball Instagram. EPB podcast. We're here every week, every Tuesday, dropping for you. We'll catch you guys on the next one.